All right, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host, Tone Vase. Still in Mexico, we're gonna stick to the traditional format. This show will need to be no more than 30 minutes this time. I will take 5 minutes and go through the price of Bitcoin. Then I'm gonna have a friend who's sitting right there. Join me. You guys will, most of you know who he is. He's going to come on the show. We're going to talk. We're just like talking about economics and inflation a little bit. So we are likely to do more of the same. And then maybe if there's time, we can talk some more geopolitics. So with no further ado, let's get into the charts. All right, let me pull out the live chat, which is something I forgot to do, so that I have it next to me. And also my Telegram group for Q&A. All right, so let's get into it. No, actually, nothing has changed. It's going to be like the shortest overview of price of Bitcoin possible because nothing has changed. Everything I said on yesterday's video is basically being repeated. But those that did not watch yesterday's video, here's a 5-minute recap. We are sitting right on this support, and every time we have sat on this support, we ended up breaking that support and moved down to the next moving average. That is a very bad sign, pointing to lower prices on a monthly scale. Here's the weekly scale. We are technically still in a downtrend, even though we are slightly above the channel, but we are above all the moving averages. The lucid stars are going down. Once this candle ends and the next candle begins, I'll see if I can readjust this channel with it still being intact into a downtrend. The weekly chart is also showing a weakness. Oh, I'm sorry. The lucid stars have flipped. My bad. I didn't see that. The lucid stars is giving you a bullish indication. Because this wick has flipped to lucid SAR. I was actually meaning to rewrite the code for lucid SAR, in which case this situation would be a neutral lucid SAR and not bullish bearish, because the lucid SARs are either a bearish indication or a bullish indication. There is no neutral indication. There's no cash indication. It's either a long trade or a short trade. I was going to add code to this to make these things yellow. It would be like red, green or yellow being neutral. This would be a neutral situation. I don't know if I want to explain the details of what I plan to do, but I never did it, so maybe one day. The position allocation chart, we went fully cash at approximately current price. So that's where we are right now. This chart is not yet bullish. It is setting up for potentially more downside. That's what it looks like to me. We have 1.5 days to go. Can this chart go back up and these moving averages cross over? It is possible, but if I drop all annotations, you can see how the two moving averages are flip-flopping, and when that happens, our positions will also keep flip-flopping. So right now you have all three moving averages. They are all declining and they are all below each other. That is actually a recipe for a short trade. I'm not entering a short trade right now because we are making this ridiculous triangle at the low. If we start dropping a little bit more, if we start dropping below 38K, that could be a situation for an entry into a short trade. As I have mentioned, shorting Bitcoin is kind of like staring at the sun. You want to do it very, very carefully and for very short durations. Financial summit is going to happen in Dominican Republic, but with the current global geopolitics, I will have to think long and hard if there is going to be another one. And besides, my opinions on the geopolitics and the political channel are basically separating me from everyone I knew. Today, I shouldn't have said anything. I was in a Ukrainian group chat. I said something. And of course, I've been cursed out. I am as bad as Putin, and I've been kicked out of the group. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna, hold back my views and which you guys know that I talk about after the show. So Here's the daily chart. We can take a look at the funding rate. You can see how the funding rate continues to accumulate in the direction of the bulls, and eventually it will show it. Almost need to sneeze there. Let's go to price action. The price action is totally useless. As long as the price of Bitcoin stays in this really super wide channel between 44.5 and 36.5, there's really not much interesting going on in Bitcoin. But as this continues to consolidate, the longer term moving averages do get to trend down and catch up to the price. Does that make it more likely to break above those moving averages, or is it more likely to get rejected by those moving averages? Well, so the odds are about the same. So it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't really help you one way or another. So right now we wait and see which way the channel is going to break. All right. Short-term chart, we topped on a 4-hour and we're now consolidating. This to me seems more likely to break down than up, but technically it can go in either direction. Today is Saturday. GBTC is not trading. The premium is as low as it has been in a while. And once FOMO sets in, I do expect this premium to eventually evaporate. Those interested in the MRI can find it on Tonve's products and services. MRI indicator under products and services, also my on-demand videos. Oil, the price of oil is not as extreme as it was. I guess people are coming down a little bit. We will see how the tensions in between Ukraine and Russia play out going forward and what that means for the price of oil. I have been speculating that the price of oil will be rising going forward, and it is. I still expect it to keep rising, even if it does snap back to more reasonable prices for a short time being. I just don't see the political situation getting any better. I only see it getting worse. And as that happens, as more sanctions happen, there's just less oil to go around. There can be multiple markets. We can talk about that in the geopolitics section. Gold, I expect gold to keep rising. You can see gold is doing the same thing as oil. All commodities will probably start to rise. I guess there's going to be a bit of a commodity boom coming up. That's what I foresee. And again, people are somewhat getting used to the tensions. I mean, it's the military action has been going on for 2 weeks now. So not much has changed in the last week. So the prices are, the volatility has come down. Silver, I'm going to drop the silver chart. I don't really care about silver. So it's like a shitcoin, basically. It's a gold shitcoin. I expect the ratio of gold and silver to keep rising, probably for the rest of my lifetime. It'll go up and down on an upwards trend, kind of like Bitcoin. Let's close that as well. Correlation. So right now, today's Saturday. Okay, that makes sense. So Friday, the stock market started rising, then fell. Bitcoin also fell. Today's the weekend. Bitcoin is left up to its own devices. And I expect the correlation to come back on Monday. Weekly chart. That's a bad looking weekly chart. Now, there is an MRI buy next week. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we find a bottom next week. I would love to see capitulation, a drop in the stock market to about 4,000 and bounce right off that 4,000. This is a weekly candle, so you got plenty of time next week to decide if that is potentially a reversal situation. I'm not going to go into other markets. Like I said, I'm limited on time. I got about 20 more minutes. And this is a good time, good segue to bring up my friend surfer Jim. Jim's going to grab a chair. Pull up right next to me here.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey guys, so those that were only interested in the price of Bitcoin are welcome to, move on with their day. We're going to just chat a little bit about economics and whatever else Jim wants to talk about. We are here and build a little community here. We got a few friends out here, and still years away from something livable. It's just there's a piece of land, and I don't even want to say the name of it because then people start Googling it, but more information is coming. Jim, you can take a look at it. Well, you guys know Jim's back, land livable. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I watch it every day. I love the price action. I'm cool with Nest. Just to elaborate, have a goal, tone about 40 other Bitcoiners from around setting where we can not only learn from each other, but steward the land really well and teach all that to other people so that we can expand that self-sustaining ethos around the world. I think people are going to need it with the way governments are destroying the world. So I came down to look at the site and the logistics. Being a builder, I needed to see what I was going to be working with, and it looks really good. I'm pretty psyched about it. I think we're going to have something that's unique and is going to probably get replicated around the world by other people once we show how good it can come out. So pretty psyched. I'm going to try and move down here in about a year and really dive in and make this thing happen. So those people who are listening, you will see updates over the next year, 2, 3 years as we build this thing out. And I think most people will be impressed. So.
Hey, it looks like my screen has frozen. The internet has been giving me trouble. The video has frozen, though the audio seems to be okay. Let me cut the camera. Let me see what happens here. My video is still frozen. Yeah, also the video is still frozen. Shoot. I don't want to cut the stream. Audio is good now. Okay, so yeah, having a little bit of internet trouble. Let me switch over to my hotspot. Maybe. Okay, maybe it'll come back. I turned the camera off, and I turned the camera on, and we're back on camera a little bit.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, always. Mexican internet. Yeah, so because that community is going to be a little bit in the middle of nowhere, we're already applied for Starlink. So hopefully there will be really, really good internet there. And I am trying to make the move down to Mexico myself. That's why I'm spending a little more time down. And we're seeing it right now. With Ukraine as well. The United States meddled pretty badly, and now have no fight. Very critical of the United States, and I get from Americans on that as well, and they're like, "Why don't you get the hell out?"
That stream just got cut off.
Yeah, no, the stream's back, but I'm gonna see if I can switch over to my hotspot and maybe. But as I switch over, we could also use this. Okay, so guys, I just switched over to my. Maybe it'll be better. Okay, so hopefully this is a little bit better. Yeah, so my plans in establishing a life elsewhere have been met with a lot of criticism as well. I think Mexico is a great option. You guys know I like tequila. You guys know I like to eat meat. we've been eating ridiculously
Oh,
good
it's
meat,
so good.
and it's all
Holy crap.
grass fed here. Like, it's,
Wait. I want to add to that. The cows that live down here have been living here for decades, if not centuries, not being injected with chemicals from farming cooperatives. They walk around on this desert landscape, finding their own food all day long. It's like the easiest cattle, like pristine animals. The food is absolutely amazing. And the opportunities down here, I think, are astounding. We have essentially just this clean slate of land to start with. And between all the people involved, and yeah, I'm just super pumped on Mexico. I want to say another thing too about this place. People down here live off the grid all over the place for decades, and we want to be self-sustaining. So we don't need the grid. It's already been proven out down here that you can live off grid. We will have all the amenities that anybody from the first world would need, and they would come here and they wouldn't even know they were off the grid. That's how we plan to do this. This is going to be a great.
Yeah, there's going to be a
project.
lot of challenges. The biggest challenge being like, how do we who's going to be the dictator of the community, basically?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the totalitarian leader of the community, while at the same time giving people maximum freedom? And it even starts with like the ownership of said land, right? So there is a giant chunk of land, and we're talking, hundreds of acres, bordering on 1,000 acres. And how do you divvy that up, right? Like, how do you give people confidence that like Tone Vase is not going to take away their land, or Surfer Jim here, rug pull the land. So it's there's going to be a lot of challenges involved, and rules and regulations, because you need rules and regulations.
Rules without rulers, hopefully. We're hoping to set up a committee, set up some bylaws that everybody who wants to come there can agree to, ones that allow maximum freedom, that don't impose on their neighbors, and keep the environment clean and safe, and everybody's safe. And if we can start on those principles, and of course we got hard money to work with, which is that makes a huge difference. Everybody involved in this understands not only hard money, but understands the honesty it takes to operate in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And you make one little misstep and you get called out in this community. So it's good. It's a high bar for us to shoot for. We have a high standard we have to meet, and I think that's a good thing. We're going to have, essentially, because of Bitcoin, we're going to have an open ledger for the community. Like, everybody that lives there is going to know how much money the community has and what it's being used for. So you don't see this in other communities. You join a condo complex right now, if you're not on the board, you have no idea what they're doing with your money. So we expect that we're going to take all the good things that are out there in the world that have been proven out, get rid of all the bad things, and hopefully combine to make a system that everybody else can copy and benefit from. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, and the other discussion you and I had, we're going to talk more about this once once some more paperwork's established, like water rights, and there's already a few structures built on there. We have some videos and stuff. So it's that once Jim moves down here and starts actually building homes, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. That's when I'm going to be coming down here as well. But the discussion we had was a little bit on inflation. And what's her name? Plasky? How do you pronounce her last name?
Saki.
Jen Psaki. So God, she's so unlikable. Like, anytime like there's a video of her coming up to the podium, like who was the lady that Trump had as his press secretary?
Oh man, I can't even remember now.
She was really likable.
There were a few really good ones over the years.
But, she was like blonde. When she was standing at the podium, she was very likable. This one, man, she's just such an unlikable person, like a Kamala Harris.
Yeah, like, she lies constantly. Yeah. It's terrible.
So she's blaming inflation on Russia. Of course, everything is being blamed on Russia. Like, you trip on a sidewalk, you're going to blame it on Russia. Everything is being blamed on Russia. I mean, Russia did, start, Russia did enter Ukraine, and Russia did start the killing of people in Ukraine, and I condemn that. People don't seem to realize that I condemn it. But I also explain why it happened, how it could have been avoided, and how Ukrainian lives can still be saved. However, no one is interested in listening in any of that. And anyone that supports Ukraine just wants to go and shoot Russians, especially Putin. And anyone that tries to act rationally and try to explain how more lives can be saved, I mean, they're just being pushed away as Putin apologists and Putin supporters. And that's the part that really, really bothers me. And that's why I get kicked out of every single group if I try to bring up that kind of topic. But in any case, so she's blaming it on Russia. Now, here's the thing. One country starting a military action against another country does not cause this kind of inflation. However, cutting off a country like Russia from the financial system and the economic system of the world does cause this kind of inflation, right? So in a way, she's right. In a way, the Russian invasion of Ukraine did increase inflation. Now, obviously, all the money printing that the world has done increased it more. And for me, the biggest driver of this inflation is the COVID shutdown that basically destroyed the supply chain. That is the biggest driver of this inflation, is the COVID global shutdown. The second biggest driver of inflation is all the money printing that has been done, not only in the last 2 years, but in the years prior. And the third biggest reason for inflation is the cancellation of Russia economically and financially. That's the cause, not the invasion part, right? Now, I understand why the U.S. and the world has cut off Russia from the economic, from the SWIFT system. I understand why they did it. I understand why the economic sanctions are in place. But by placing those economic sanctions, you create inflation in the West. And the West will never say this, because now they will admit that they caused inflation by sanctioning Russia. Now, it's a trade-off, right? But what's more important, lower gas prices or sanctioning evil Russia? If sanctioning evil Russia is more important than lower gas prices, then be honest about it, get on that podium and say so. Yes, we are gonna sanction Russia because of the horrendous thing that they did, but be aware, by sanctioning Russia, inflation will rise. They will never say that, right? They're just gonna blame Russia for the inflation, not blame the sanctions.
Yeah, and as we were talking earlier, it's my position that the current inflation we're feeling is a lag from the COVID shutdown, and future inflation will be a combination of that and all the stuff you just mentioned. It seems to me, and you could tell me if you see this differently, that because this war thing just started, it's not like the prices you're seeing in the grocery store are a result of that directly. I just think it takes a little more time for that to ripple out into society and have a direct effect on consumer prices at the retail level. I'd love to hear your feedback.
That's a good point. The point is, like barrels of oil and commodities, why are they rippling through the system so quickly? Well, here's the thing, right? Maybe they're not rippling through a system so quickly. The big inflation only started around, like, in the last few months when the tensions in with Russia were high. That could be a year delay from when the world was shut down.
Yeah, totally. That's
correct,
exactly what
right.
I was thinking.
But it's happening right now, and because of that invasion, and because of the economic sanctions on Russia, like everyone thinks that economic sanctions are one-sided. We're gonna put on sanctions on Russia, and Russians are gonna feel the pain. No, we all gonna feel the pain.
Yeah, the whole world's
gonna feel the pain, right, of those sanctions. So perhaps inflation will stay this high or even rise more because of the sanctions, and that hasn't rippled through yet.
Yeah.
But the price of oil skyrocketing that much. So for all commodities, oil, gold, nickel, copper, it doesn't matter. There are two parts to that commodity. Industrial supply and demand plus speculation. Wall Street speculation, you and I speculation. I can speculate on oil. right? Like 1 billion tons buying oil because we think that oil is going to go to $200 a barrel is going to spike the price of oil, even if there is this, even if demand and supply is still very low because the world isn't shut down. This is the same reason why the price of oil crashed to below zero, because no one needed oil because the world shut down. And then speculators came in as like, well, if no one's going to need oil, we're going to short oil, right? This is the thing. So speculators jump in very quickly, and speculators don't think about what the price of oil is going to be tomorrow. Speculators think what the price of oil is going to be next month or in the near future as well. So a lot of that has to do with it. All right, I got a question. Are you worried about the cartel kidnapping you guys? No, we're not.
Not at all.
Like people have to. It's actually really, really nice. Have you felt at like how much like we're in Cabo right now, right? Like how safe do you feel just walking around Cabo? Even in the middle of the night.
I feel perfectly safe, honestly. You hear about this
safer than LA and New York City at the middle of the
some
night,
places,
right?
hell yeah. No, you hear about this stuff in the mainstream media about how dangerous things are, the cartel, this, that, and the other thing. The locals and the local police down here do not want cartels messing with people. They may let them mess with each other so much. They can't afford to have it get out to the world that, you can't go to Mexico. I mean, tourism's a big thing down here. I see none of it. The people are cool. I feel terribly safe. And I don't know. I see no sign of cartels coming to get us and do anything to us. No way.
I mean, it depends how this community, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
No.
But what I can say is it's every place in the world is no different, right? Like Chicago, Detroit, New York, LA, even parts of Miami. They're very dangerous parts.
Always.
And you need to know where they are.
That's
and you
it.
need to be smart, and you need to, not put yourself in harm's way. And Mexico is the same. Mexico is big, guys. It is really, really big. It's almost the size of the US. It's like what, maybe 25% smaller than the US if you don't count Alaska. Let's not count Alaska. Like Mexico is big. Like the difference between the east coast of Mexico and west coast of Mexico is like the difference between east coast and west coast in the US.
I would even add that this country feels like America, United States, like 200 years ago. There are frontiers out here that are not even touched. The kind of thing you might have seen in the Western states, several hundred years ago as people were migrating west and building out the United States. I feel like there's so much open space out here that you can be doing that kind of activity, people moving further away from the cities in this country for decades. There's so much room. So for those people that feel oppressed anywhere in the world and they need to get to a place that's freer, honestly, Mexico feels about as free as you can get. It's pretty cool down here.
I see someone says that it takes about 18 months for money printing to have an effect on inflation. Well, that is, your statement is proven wrong. With all the money printing that they did in 2009, didn't cause any inflation, right? So your statement is factually incorrect. Money printing can cause inflation, but not always. It depends on how much money you print versus how much wealth you destroy. In 2009, 2008, 2009, more wealth was destroyed than new printed money. So inflation was not a big effect. This time around, did they print more money than they destroyed with the COVID shutdown? I'm going to say they probably came close. However, I still believe that the main cause of inflation is the shutdown, not the money printing. But the money printing, rears its ugly head. 2 to 3% annual inflation for 50 years is an exponential, curve. Also, I want to say one more thing. So I have another comment. So the biggest reason for inflation, Tone says, are money printing. Well, it's not the biggest reason, right? Like, again, you're not listening. It's not the biggest reason. It may not even be a reason. To me, it's mostly a global shutdown. The money printing happened under Trump, and shutdown happened under Trump. So Biden's fault. No, I disagreed with the shutdown under Trump. I disagreed with all the money printing to make up for the destruction under Trump. Look, Trump is not a saint. Trump's done bad things, but every single president in the United States history has done good and bad things. The question is, how much good has he done versus how much bad has he done? And in my view, Trump is one of the greatest presidents in my lifetime, probably in the last 50 years, because in my view, he did a lot more good than bad, no matter how much you hate Trump. Okay. But yeah, there were many things that he did that I'm critical of, including his current views on vaccines, including him, not firing Fauci. I mean, like the list is as long as my arm of the bad stuff that he did, but it's still a lot shorter than all the other presidents I've in my life that I've seen. Biden to me has already exceeded, done a lot worse things than Trump. He's already like worse than Trump, and all the presidents prior, from Clinton, the Obama, the Bushes. I think they've all done terrible. But no, I mean, like, I don't praise Trump on everything, but that's my view on it.
Yeah, I don't think Trump's the worst president we've ever had. That's for sure. At least he didn't start a new war.
Yeah.
But I don't know, he's a bit of a poser. They all have to get that job, and they all have to lie to stay in that job. So I really don't like any of them.
I will say, of all the presidents and their lies, Trump had by far the least.
I would say that
by
too.
far the least. He was as like, it wasn't even close.
If you take it to the opposite side of that argument, he probably spewed out more truths that another president wouldn't.
Right. That's the other part. Right. Yeah.
He called a lot of bullshit on a lot of people and places and things that a lot of other presidents never would. How much that affects positively or negatively, the economy, the people, any of that, who knows? But it did feel like we had somebody that might be just a little more honest. Hard to say, honesty and where you land on the scale in terms of honesty. That's a tough one, but all politicians, you can't trust them.
Right. So am I on screen share already or not? I'm not. Okay, so I'm gonna go to screen share real quick. We have a little bit of time left, very little. And I wanna, because again, I am being classified as a Putin apologist. Wait, did you like the conference?
Oh, the conference. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I got to get a chance to say this. You folks, if you want to learn about Bitcoin, you need to go to a Bitcoin only conference. There's only a couple of them. Tone puts on one of the best. Absolutely. Everybody I spoke to had an absolutely fantastic time. The speakers were unbelievable. Just the whole event, the side events, the whole thing. And you're with the same people for 3 or 4 days. You get to have really long, deep conversations. You make meaningful friendships, and it's Bitcoin only. There's no shitcoiners that go to his conference. I would say the same thing about BitBlock Boom in Texas. The one in Miami is going to be a shit show of shitcoiners everywhere. So if you just want Bitcoin, you got to go to these smaller events. Hopefully, we're going to have another one next year, bigger and better. But you don't want to miss this stuff. It was so worth it. So.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. Also, shout out to Mason. Mason, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, so real quick, a couple of things. I'm gonna create a political channel. The Russian Federation is wants, and I heard it in Russian. They're trying to demand answers from the United States what exactly they were doing in the Ukrainian biolabs. So they clearly have some evidence to go up in front of the EU Council. I'm surprised the EU Council is listening to the Russian Federation and their claims on what's going on with US funding gain of function research in creating viruses in Ukraine. I have not read more into it. I will need to. But
can I make a comment about that? The fact that this is being brought up is, to me, incredibly likely that it's true. Our government has lied to us about the crap in China. We know about Biden and his son's connections to Ukraine for years, but nobody can ever figure out why. So this makes a lot of sense. Not to mention, I believe NATO and the West and US have been provoking Russia for years. And this is just one more way to do it, to have our presence right next to their country. If you were them, you might not like it, but don't expect to get the truth. If US admits to anything about bioweapons in Ukraine, they're going to lie. There's no way they're going to admit it.
Right.
But I would just by default of even hearing about it, I would immediately go, oh, that's probably true. Because it probably is.
Yeah. I mean, is Russia going to be lying about stuff? Yeah, of course.
Well, they all lie.
Yeah, they all lie. You got to be able to sift through the lie. Okay, so I am being very criticized of posting this documentary. So here's how I found out about this documentary. It was removed from Google. So being removed from Google, removed from YouTube, removed from Google. See, this is where the media has screwed up. If only they were honest about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
If only they were honest about COVID, if only they were honest about vaccines, I might actually believe them in the current situation in Ukraine.
Yeah.
But the United States mainstream media and social media platforms have lost all credibility. So once I see proof that YouTube is removing a documentary that was published 7 years ago, I am very curious to go and watch it. So I watched it and I posted it for others to watch it. And all the criticisms of the documentary are the same. This is Russian propaganda. And I replied to them saying, point to the video in the video that is false, right? Like, this is Russian propaganda is not an argument against something.
You have to prove what's the propaganda.
Right.
Say, this is the lie and here's why it's the lie.
Exactly.
You just, this is what politicians do. They make the statement like Biden, our printing money is not causing inflation. Well, okay.
Right.
Explain how that's the case. No, they never will.
So I will say that there was one person that did send me a link, which I'm looking for. I thought I had it open. Maybe it's on a different browser. Is this it? Did send like a website that wrote up as to why it's Russian propaganda. And I want to show that to you guys as well. It's somewhere in these. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So one person did just one. Okay. So this, I started reading it. I haven't finished reading it yet. I'll read it. I will read it. This is the one write-up. So you can guys grab the URL. You see it right there. You can like kind of see it. It's not in my video description yet because I haven't read it yet. So I don't put random stuff in my video description. But you can see it. So you can punch it up. You can also look at it. So this was criticism, but I haven't read this yet. And also when you read criticism of something, it could be very nuanced, right? So you can do like a 2-hour documentary on a topic, right? And in that you, I don't know, misspoke on one little tangent for 5 minutes, and somehow that discredits the entire thing, right? So I will read this, but the points that are being made need to be major points, not minor points. Like I started reading it, it's like, because they went through the history of Ukraine, from like the 1500s up, and then this is pointing out how they purposely skipped like 5 years out of that 300 years. like it's
they probably don't mean anything those 5 years. No, they didn't need that.
No. Well, right. So I mean, like I said, I haven't read deep into it, but I will.
Yeah.
So yes, it's possible that they omitted a certain part of that history, but does that discredit the entire documentary or not?
Oh, you're saying they might have mistakenly left it out? Well, I was inferring that they did it on purpose.
No, mistakenly or on purpose.
Oh,
right?
so you don't know.
But the point is, they're trying to give you a 300-year history of Ukraine in the first 10, 15 minutes of the video. So obviously some parts are going to get skipped. Most parts are going to get skipped because it's a long history, right? But they're pointing to like one specific period that they didn't mention, and it's supposed to be important. But again, does that discredit the whole thing or not is up to people to decide. I would have loved to, hear more about the early history of how the Soviet Union, was started. I remember that history, but remember, what I learned about the Soviet Union was Russian propaganda, right? Because back then it was the Soviet Union. So when I was learning about it, it's biased because I was in Russia in the 80s. So obviously, the way I was taught the Soviet Union was very different than the way the West sees the Soviet Union. So I have to, also sift through that part. But anyway, so I recommend people watch it and then look for sources that discredit it. But arguing that this is Russian propaganda is not an argument.
You got to,
It's just not an argument.
you got to
guys.
don't trust, verify, like in Bitcoin. You know, you can read something that looks good, but you really just shouldn't trust it on its face. If you really want to know, you should try to verify with other sources that are also credible. Not always easy to do, but most people don't even try.
Yeah. Now, Oliver Stone, as I'm being informed, did another documentary in 2019, also, favorable-ish to Russia. And apparently he did a documentary on Venezuela before shit hit the fan, favorably of Chavez.
Yeah.
Now, Oliver Stone is from Hollywood, so I already have a bad opinion of him as a Marxist, right? Like that's pretty much 90% of Hollywood is socialists, super liberals, bordering on Marxism, okay? So I already have a bad view of almost anyone from Hollywood as far as their political affiliation. So I'm not praising Oliver Stone. The question is, at what point do you attack the messenger, and at what point do you criticize the message?
No,
right?
It should always be the message, unless the messenger is twisting the message. Right. Then you got to attack him too.
Right. I mean, just because you don't like the messenger, it's possible that the message is fine. I mean, you can hate Trump all you want, but how bad was his message? How bad were his press conferences? Was he honest or not?
Well, that's what people never do.
Right.
They don't. They're unwilling or unable to look past the messenger and just listen to the words and decide neutrally if the words make sense or if the narrative is right. Forget about who's delivering it. But people are so caught up with their emotions, red and blue, and you can't cross the line. You can't even give the other guy even credit when they're right. They don't want to do it. It's terrible.
Now, I will say I could be potentially biased as well, because I have a very poor view of the following messenger, but they're mostly platforms. I will not watch anything CNN has to say. That credibility is gone. I will not believe anything that Twitter promotes. That credibility is gone. So yes, I do not trust the messenger when that messenger is a corporation. That credibility is gone. So I need to get my information from other sources that are not CNN, that are not mainstream media. Fox has been better at this.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson's been one of the best.
Tucker Carlson's been great. Joe Rogan's been great.
Yeah.
Fox, I've seen some interviews. Let me play one really short one. I'm gonna go off screen share for a second. I know Jim has to go as well.
I'm gonna head out right now. I appreciate you letting me sit
Jim,
here.
give me 3 minutes.
Okay.
Please.
I don't want to keep people waiting. I gotta go do some work.
Yeah, no. Give me real quick 3 minutes. Should I gotta find it?
Something you need me to see?
Yeah, just real quick. I wish it's on just looking for anything like Ukraine.
This is where the people watching have to get very patient. This is not a scripted show, folks. This is on the fly. So
yeah, just give me, when you need it.
Of course, you can't
find it real quick. I should have had it up. Maybe it's one of these. Usually good at this. Okay. That's another good one, actually. I wish I had time to play that. No, I should be able to find
There's so much good content out there if you look.
Okay. So usually puts it up. Yeah, this is it. Here, I got it. Let me make it full screen. Okay, got it. So here, hopefully the audio will come through, right? So again, this is why this was on Fox, right? And Fox probably didn't realize what's going to happen. I'm going to go back on screen share. I'm going to go back to screen share. So it's short.
But the question is, what is it that Zelensky is going to do? The Russians have made it very clear what they want is a neutral Ukraine. This could have ended days ago if he accepted that. And then they can adjust the borders. But the eastern part of Ukraine is firmly in Russian hands. But again, the Russians are not seizing territory. They're destroying Ukrainian forces. That's their focus.
Colonel, it sounds like you don't approve of Zelensky's stand.
Well, I think Zelensky is a puppet. and he is putting huge numbers of his own population at unnecessary risk. And quite frankly, most of what comes out of Ukraine is debunked as lies within 24 to 48 hours. The notions of taking and retaking airfields, all of this is nonsense. It hasn't happened.
He's not a hero when standing up for himself and his own people. You don't think he's a hero?
No, I do not. I don't see anything heroic about the man. And I think the most heroic thing that he can do right now is to come to terms with reality. Neutralize Ukraine. This is not a bad thing. A neutral Ukraine would be good for us as well as for Russia. It would create the buffer that, frankly, both sides want. But he's, I think, being told to hang on and try to drag this out, which is tragic for the people that have to live through this.
I'm inclined to disagree with you, Cole, but we see how this works out. Come on, don't miss more credible. Tough guy. Thanks for being with us, sir. See you again soon. Thank you.
Well, the point of me playing that is at least Fox has these views.
At least they're willing to put somebody that is going against their narrative, which you
Right.
will never see on another channel. And
Right.
even though the moderator here doesn't agree,
Right.
they let the guy speak at least. And,
Yes.
and somebody can go like, wait a minute, that's a different way of looking at this. Maybe I should don't trust, verify, and do some homework, which is what Tone and I always do. You can't go by one source ever, and you really can't trust the media at all. But I'm not a fan of any of them. But I guess if I had to pick one, Fox would probably be the better of all the rest. I don't know. Can't go with MSNBC. That's for damn sure. I mean, they got Rachel Maddow out there just yesterday saying you still need to get the shots. Meanwhile, people all over the world are dying from this thing. Like state of Florida is saying that we won't even let kids get the shot. They're going completely the other way. So like, how the hell does she sit up there on her soapbox and tell everybody they still need to get the jab? I'm blown away. I mean, that woman is just lying to everybody straight up. So anyway.
Yeah. All right, Jim.
Tone, thanks for having me, brother. I
yeah.
appreciate it. Good luck to everybody out there. It's a crazy world. Good luck navigating it, and build your citadels and get sovereign with Bitcoin and get free. All right. Later. Sorry about that.
You good?
Okay.
All right, guys. I am gonna end the show here as well. I am heading back to the United States for a week, and then I'm heading back to Latin America. I plan to be spending a lot more time down in Latin America. It's time to learn Spanish, and that's what I'm looking for my future. All right. And yeah, the politics are going to be coming. Yeah, look, it's up to you guys whether you agree or disagree with the colonel. I'm inclined to agree with him a little more because I am as much as hated as I am by all Ukrainians at this point. I think that lives can be saved. Lives should have never been taken, but what's done is you can't take that back. But going forward, lives can be saved, and we're going to talk about both perspectives on both sides. Ukrainians are fighting to the death, and their view is that they are defending all of humanity by holding back Russia from taking over Ukraine. And if that mentality will not allow Ukrainians to sign a peace deal with Russia, because they would feel like they've surrendered. And their view is they're fighting for all of humanity, and it's a really horrible situation. The relationship between Russians and Ukrainians is destroyed, and the relationship between Russians and the rest of the world is potentially destroyed. So we'll see where it all goes. All right, guys, thank you all for watching, and see you all on the next one. I hope you guys heard that little Fox clip. No one said anything, so I'm assuming you guys heard it.